Hello, 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 everybody. It's your girl, Kamisha Tyler, aka Sarathea I Am. And on this feed, we're going to begin the breakdown of who's who in the tribe of Israel. This is what you first must know. The raised up, the elevated, the lifted up of God does not seek the same reverence from man. In this system of white supremacy, satanic worship, those tribes who see themselves or spiritually identify themselves as the unelevated of God find their elevation in the grasps of white supremacy. So, let's start with whom biblically the Bible says is the lowest of all the tribes. And the Bible says that in the last days you shall know them by their spirit. The least in the tribes of Israel is the tribe of Benjamin. This is where Saul extends from. He is in the tribe of Benjamin. To know them by the Spirit is to know them by the characteristics of their behavior. So we've identified sickness of the leprous group or clan. These are your pale skin, your Europeans, your whites. These operate to throw the stone and hide their hands. In the tribe, then we have Satan. These are those now where we start having a hue, a complexion of melanin, right? But what God said about these are the ones that of the color scale, the four colors of the earth, said, we will not identify as black, we do not identify as brown, but say that we are tan because tan represented the closer form to white supremacy. These are your Hispanics, your Latinos, your Puerto Ricans, your Mexicans. And they've pledged allegiance to white supremacy, satanic worship. Here is where they get their worship, being unelevated in God. Here is where white supremacy finds their worship, being unelevated in God or of God. Then we go to the next tribe up. We have the tribe of Benjamin. Here is where Saul comes. Here is where Saul is. The characteristics that the Bible identifies as the character of Saul or behavior of Saul is these are the ones who have the hardest time letting go. For example, let's say the world finally wakes up. This earth raises up its people. And you begin to see that in order to walk in the righteousness of God, there are things that you will have to let go of, if that be interracial relationships, if that be idol worships, so on and so forth. If that be homosexuality, the tribe of Benjamin will find it the most difficult to turn away from and let go of the things that do them no good. Take the character of Saul. He wanted with everything in his being to be king. And when that was no longer a choice for him, read about how he acted to get and keep and sustain what it is that he wanted outside of the will of God. In modern day, you will see, let's get this understanding. You see mostly the white and the Hispanics, you see them up front doing the work of the devil, right? But we all know that the Bible says Satan cannot do anything without God's permission. And so here's where you need to know that because it's such a hidden message of them knowing who God is and them reverencing the image of God, then you have to understand that their orders come from melanated people. So in the tribe of Benjamin, these are also melanated people who does not, with God calling them the least of the tribe, do not see themselves elevated in God, and so they've cited themselves in white supremacy, satanic worship, for that honoring of having position. In modern day, you will see it played out most of the time. These are the ones who give the order to go about. You'll see evictions happening. They'll play into the crocodile tears of the white woman. They'll play into the lies and the dishonesty of the Hispanics and your Latinos and Latinas and all of that. And so then from the higher up, this is why even though you see the whites and you see the Hispanics and all these sitting there and saying X, Y, and Z has to happen, when it becomes a level of higher wisdom, they do one or two things. They'll say, well, my boss, and they'll take it, the responsibility off of them and place it on the higher up. Or you see them just take their stance in the wrong thing, unbudging to hearing any kind of wisdom or righteousness or right tactic for what they're saying and what they're doing. They'll even go as far as shunning any kind of wisdom or intelligence that you point out to them when they're operating unintelligently. Okay? Because wisdom comes from God's image and God's character. So one or two things has happened when she's a Hispanic or he's a Hispanic or they are Hispanic or European or Caucasian, and they either shun the responsibility by saying, my boss, let me go talk to my boss said, but then when you try to talk to your boss, and it's all of a sudden they're on the phone or on vacation, or you can't have no access to them, I just explained to you what's really going on. When you got someone who will come and say, I am the boss, I am the supervisor, I am blah, 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 blah. All that happened was the lepers went to the next level, who we call Satan, if it becomes a Hispanic or a Mexican or so on and so forth, saying that they are in this position of hierarchy. And you talk to them and have a conversation and you see just how unintelligent they are. The lepers has just passed the baton to Satan. Now they have a level of authority over the lepers because, well, what are the works of Satan? They don't mind doing the stealing. They don't mind doing the killing. They don't mind doing the destroying. So now you got your paperwork, your records, your stuff stolen and messed up all at the same time, because all of your sensitive information has been put in Satan's hands. Okay? Now, if any of these two clans have any inkling of wisdom, then they would understand, okay, I'm not at this level. Let me pass it on to someone else. And now you're going into the tribes of Israel. Okay? The tribes of Israel. And since we're dealing with people who see themselves unelevated in the righteous image of God, it'll go to someone operating from or in the tribe of Benjamin. Okay? Tribe of Benjamin, he'll go ahead and say over top of Satan's head. Now you're stepping into these gray areas of saying Satan can't do anything without God's permission, right? And so now you understand why they seek so heavily to be sexually involved or relationally involved with you on an intimate level, because now they can begin to intermingle and intermix and There's a word that I want to say that's on the tip of my tongue that's not coming out. They tarnish. That's what it is. They begin to tarnish this pure image of God, right? So now you're feeding white supremacy, who will say that they're pure over the God image or melanated people, because there's this level of tarnish when you start intermixing and intermingling and giving yourself to either the leprous, which is sickness, or satanic worship. Okay, so the next level up, they would say it's the tribe of Benjamin. Now, as long as these two clans have your approval, melanated folks, to act in all fullness of their evil, wicked, and sinful nature, they're saying the same. They're saying, well, they're saying like Caesar said, when all the congregation wanted to kill off Jesus and they knew he was innocent, they're saying, look, I'm going to wash my hands of it, because I'm going to do the work that God commanded or said and gave me permission to do. You understand? So now, tribe of Benjamin, you who are of the melanated tribe, are of God's image, and have secluded yourself in order to side with white supremacy. Okay? What you're doing is you're marring the image of God, because the other two clans that you're trying to side with do not side with you for real, right? They have an agenda and they have a motive, right? And they're going to carry out, Satan's going to carry out to kill, steal, and destroy, F up people's paperwork, get a hold to their social security, come over here with their names being Maria and Jorge and all these other things. And then the next thing you know, they're Sarah and Michael's and Nicole's and all this other stuff. And then Sarah, Nicole's, and Michael's are missing or dead. Yeah, I hate to have to say it, but that's what you're operating in. So now, those of us who are of the God image and truly trying to do the work of God, now you have to start finding and pin. Let's stop calling them Uncle Toms. Let's start putting them, as God says, or biblically it says they will be identified as. Okay? It says you will know them by their spirit. Any image of God, because a house divided by itself cannot stand. If they cannot depart from a level of authority and responsibility that operates against its own self, this is known as the tribe of Benjamin. Okay? They are readily happy to evict someone, right? They are ready happy to see their own people homeless, begging, and then these will be the ones who will say, yet we have to feed the people and feed every white person and Hispanic person who within their own clans and tribe already have access to necessity. But the tribe of Benjamin will work to seclude and not include the fullness of God's image, which are the other tribes of Israel. Okay? So on that note, I think this has gone far enough. There are some other ones we can break down, but we're going to stop here. And as we climb the ladder, right? Remember the dream of them climbing the ladder? Let's start giving righteous name to righteous tribes. So far, we've identified the leprous. Okay, and when they're operating in sinful nature, they're known as leprous. When they're in right standing and doing the things that are righteous and right in the sight of God, they were known as the angels. Okay, your Latinos, Hispanics, when there's a breakdown of God and Satan, you have to know that these are your Satans. And there's a reason for that. Biblically, it's been discussed and described their sin where they have been cast out or cast away. And the transference of energy takes that spiritual appointment that was given to them, and what you guys are doing in modern day time is you're placing them in positions of having responsibility over God's people, and all they're doing is trying to transfer that energy of having been cast away onto God's image and trying to mar the image of God, which furthers the whole agenda of Satan worship. Because if I can mar God and say that God is in the wrong, then why wouldn't the people want to worship Satan? Right? But when someone stands in their God power against Satan, then they go and ask for permission from the tribe of Benjamin. Okay? Saul. Right? Let's just call it Saul, so because everyone can understand the story of Saul. Right? And I said on one of my feeds that it said that Saul was more afraid of David. Okay? Because now we're getting into more of the more righteous tribes of God. Right? It says he was more afraid than David. And everyone that served Saul, when you look at it trickle down in the image of God, it says David, being one man, behaved more wisely than all of the servants of Saul. Here's what I need you to understand. Okay? So we can break down the names further. But anyone operating and on board with evicting God's people, they are operating in the spirit of the tribe of Benjamin. Talk to you soon.